want to begin this half hour with a very serious story, the death of a pregnant Marine. Authorities say a fellow Marine killed her, and they are now searching worldwide to find him. We'll talk to Maria Lauterbach's mother, Mary, in just a couple of minutes. But first, NBC's Ron Mott has the latest on where this case stands.
From this nondescript backyard fire pit, the charred bodies of 20-year-old Marine Maria Lauterbach and her unborn child were unearthed nearly 3 weeks ago. Authorities near Camp Lejeune in North Carolina continue digging for clues about where her suspected killer, Cesar Lorien, is, widening an intense international manhunt starting in his native Mexico.
Being a fugitive is a whole lot tougher in reality than it looks like on TV or in the books. You have to find a way to get money, you have to find a way to eat, you have to find a way to move around in the community, and it's really a lot tougher than it looks.
Word spread that Lorien stopped at a relative's liquor store south of the U.S. border with Mexico. Last week, he was formally charged with first-degree murder by a grand jury.
Good morning.
The district attorney says he reluctantly agreed not to seek the death penalty against Lorien if arrested in Mexico because the Mexican government won't extradite suspects facing capital murder.
The choices presented to me were either a possible life without parole sentence, or the defendant living in Mexico the rest of his life, a free man.
Officials allege Lorien bludgeoned Lauterbach in the home he shared with his wife and toddler, and may be the person caught on a bank surveillance tape using Lauterbach's ATM card. In her Ohio hometown, church members focused on happier times in the young woman's life.
We remember Maria with much love for her strength, her vitality, her independent spirit, her talents on the playing field, her pride in being a Marine, and her affection.
Affection they're now forced to live without. For today, Ron Mott, NBC News, Atlanta.
Mary Lauterbach is Maria's mother. Pete Steiner is Maria's uncle. And Merle Wilberding and Chris Conrad are attorneys representing the family. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
And to you, my sincere condolences on your loss. I read something, Mary, yesterday that really disturbed me. On the day that Maria was discovered dead, you found out she had died after most of the world had heard that morning that there might be some positive movement in the case and the search for her. You found out she was dead by watching TV.
Yes, the sheriff had called me right before the announcement, and as they do sometimes, he was speaking to me in code, but said that he had expected something positive that morning.
He said it right here on our air.
Yes, and but when he called me, he said there have been some negative developments.
And then you were watching television and actually saw a banner at the bottom of the screen that said Maria Lauterbach
has
been found dead. I know this was a very difficult decision for you to come here today and talk. We spoke on the phone. Explain to our viewers why you did want to come here today.
There's been so much information floating around about Maria, largely from people that don't even know her. Also a lot of speculation. And it seemed important at this time. Normally I would never be here. But at this time, someone needs to stand up and speak for Maria.
So speak for her. Tell me about your daughter, and then we can talk about some of that misinformation you just referred to. Tell me about Maria.
Maria was a very lively girl. Our family did adopt her as a toddler, and she never sat still. She was always the bold, lively one, very interested in sports. She was always climbing up things and jumping off. You couldn't keep her down. So,
did you see changes in her personality? I think you referred to the fact that when she became stationed at Camp Lejeune, she became detached, and there was a sadness. Is that correct?
I would say, I wouldn't use the word detached. It was difficult for her to be away from home. She had never been away from home for any length of time, and having had a difficult early childhood, she was very attached to home. And it was hard for her to be away.
She talked to her mother a couple times a day and would call our family every week to 2 weeks, and so it was very family-oriented.
How would you describe, Pete, her emotional state of mind during those phone calls?
She chose to mainly focus on our families and what was going on at home. When we try to redirect the conversation to her, she would tend to want to talk about us and what was going on at home.
So. We've got 3 investigations going on now. There is a rape case. there's a murder case and there is this international manhunt. Your daughter reported the alleged rape by Cesar Lorian in May of last year. How do you both feel that the Marines responded to that accusation?
You can tell just in a very general way, no one seemed to believe her. There was an underlying assumption that we don't think that really happened, so it was taken rather lightly.
Can we talk about some of the reasons that may have been the case? In a police report you stated, and I think this may have been simplified and moved around a little bit, that your daughter had a history as a compulsive liar. You've now said that was way too strong a statement. Explain it for me.
Right after I'd filed a missing person report, the investigator asked me to send him an email with anything I could think of about my daughter. And as any mother would, I just sat down and in about 10 minutes wrote a 3-page email to him describing, her background and different personality traits. And in that, I had said, she had problems, with occasional lying. And that got, just a piece of that was pulled out. So it was really misstated. But also, I meant that in the context of, say, when you're backed in a corner to come,
right.
Something really that's not unusual for any teenager to do.
And I know that you feel one particular lie she did tell in the past about the death of her brother at the hands of her father tainted, as you said a second ago, no one believed her. It tainted this entire process, because once that was shown to be a lie, that then all of a sudden the rape allegation, people thought, well, that can't be true, and that maybe it caused a major delay in a reaction to her disappearance.
Right. We also feel that when someone has an incident like that, it sets them up to be the perfect victim, because here's a person where they have a credibility problem, and it's a beautiful woman. If you had an inclination to be violent and attack women, who would you pick?
Yeah, Matt, and one of the things we've been talking about is that we think the Marines could have done a number of things to protect Maria. When she made the report, we know everything was done to protect the accused, perfectly proper, but when they could have transferred her to another base, another unit. As it was, she stayed in the same unit. She was physically moved to a building across base, but she was in the same unit for a number of purposes.
And attended meetings with
Cesar Lorian.
Right.
And I know that you want something. It's so hard to say at this time, and I don't want to make this sound trivial. You would like something positive to come out of this, and you would like to see some changes. And I know you're working also with a foundation dealing with young women. What can come out of this, in your opinion, that's positive?
Some basic procedural changes, such as a mandatory base move if a person requests it after a rape accusation. We want to change the climate so that any time a woman is attacked and feels and wants to report it, that she can do so without the fear that the repercussions from reporting it will be far worse than the rape itself.
She'll be chastised.
Yes.
And Matt, I think expanding on what Mary was saying, the Marines at this base allowed a climate to exist that allowed this to proceed, that Maria was harassed on base and that she did move off of the base because of how she perceived things were being handled, and women that are sexually assaulted need to be able to come forward and report these incidents, and things need to change.
And we want to make sure that it's not just protecting her, but it's an ability that Maria loved the Marines, Mary loved the military. Right. We all are strong supporters of the military, but we need some changes in the culture.
This was an avoidable tragedy. And that's what everybody knows, and that's the one truth that we do know.
Again, I know it wasn't easy for you to come here today, so Mary, thank you so much. Pete, thank you so much. And I think I said Conrad before, it's Conard. I'm sorry about that. And Merle, thank you for being here as well. And once again, we want to mention the family has set up a fund in Maria's name for women who are victims of sexual assault and other abuse. For more information, you can go to our website. That, of course, is todayshow.com.